Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. This is Gottlieb's fantastic Spirit of 76 pinball machine. We've been working on this for the last couple videos, and I think we've done 3 videos on it, and we've got the thing halfway limping through its startup procedure. If you didn't watch the previous video, we went all through how the player unit works, figured it all out, and then came to the conclusion that we need to clean all the score reels. So we messed with it a little bit, and we got the game to start. It kicked the ball out. It scored a few things, and then it would just stay on ball 1 the whole time. So we've got to figure out why it's doing that. The play field here in one of the videos, we repainted a lot of. So it was completely trashed. So a lot of this has been repainted, and it looks a lot better than it used to. We put, of course, all new rubbers, light bulbs, stuff like that in it. So if you didn't see those videos, go back and watch them. So here we are. We got to get this thing to reliably start up. If you didn't see the previous video, basically this player unit spins around, it gets to position 20, and it turns on this reset relay that resets these 8 score reels. Once they reset to 0, power connects through all of them and makes that move one more spot. That moves one more spot, and it turns on this reset relay, which then resets all of these score reels. Once that gets all back to 0, power runs through them and makes this rotate back to the first position and the game starts. So when last we left it, I kind of messed with these just a little bit to limp it along, and then these weren't connecting right. So by shorting some switches together, we got it to go around to its first position and kick the ball out. So the very first thing that I want to do is clean these score reels properly so that I don't have to short anything or mess with it. It's just time to do it. This is my least favorite thing to do on these pinball machines. But what I'll do is I'll start working on them. There's 16 of them we have to do. I'll just show you one of them and what needs to be done to get the thing reliably moving and resetting and all of that. Okay, so this one's probably going to be the worst one. See all the rust here? Remember, there were rats and stuff all in this machine. So this is Gottlieb's Decagon score reel. Originally, these actually had flat spots where the digits are, and so it made more sense to call it a Decagon, but this little board, I believe, was on the earlier ones that had that, and they just kept using it. But, yeah. So you want to take these 2 screws loose to take this board off, and there's a little C-clip here you have to take loose. So when you get those off, you end up with this. You can see how filthy that is. That's the remnants of some kind of wax or oil, grease that they originally had on it. And so on this, there's a little clip, a little plastic thing. Here, this is one of the problems. If they put some kind of grease on it, it gets on this, and then after a while it hardens, and so it's kind of sticky whenever you're touching it. And then your problem is, if I can get it to go back down, this wheel sits down there like that, and then that little plastic piece I just took off sits on this metal, but it has sticky stuff all over it, which is nothing but friction. So as this turns, that's one of the places that it hangs, that little clip there, and then also the inside of this. So if this is all, see how it's yellow in there? That's some kind of gunk. And it's on all of them, every one I do. So there must have been some kind of light oil or something that they put on it at the factory. You're not really supposed to put oil on nylon touching metal, but it's the factory, so I'm not going to say that they didn't do it right. It's just, you know, I usually don't. But you need to get that as clean as possible, and you need to get the shaft of this thing clean. One way you can tell is if you, so this is the next part, same thing. There's like a sticky substance all over it, right? And then there's a little nylon piece down here as well. So when this pulls in, see the little gear there? That's going to turn this And so you've got friction all on the inside of this and the outside of that. So if there's grease and gunk all over that, it doesn't turn right. So you need to get that clean, clean, clean. Clean, clean, clean. Now look at the plate behind it. So see this plate, and then look down in there. See all that? That's more grease that somebody has put in there. So you need to just get it as clean as you possibly can so that it will move properly. And then I'm going to show you a trick with these switches once we put it back together. Oh, another thing that's very common is this blade will be bent in half about right here. If it's bent, you need to bend it back straight, but the top is bent. The top is supposed to be bent. But you'll see them like that all the time, or much more severe. I'm talking like half of them will be like that. So you need to be straight like that. Okay, so here's the problem you run into. Hopefully I can illustrate this with one hand. I'm going to pull on this plastic piece, which is going to pull the plunger in, and show you how it advances forward. So I'm trying to do it fast, which will mimic the way it does it in the machine, right? Now watch what happens when you get to position 9. So I didn't quite do it. Like it didn't quite turn all the way. Here, lock into place. And now it goes to 0 pretty easy. So this one's a little easier because it doesn't even have the 9 position switch. Since this is the last score reel, it doesn't do anything when it goes to 9. But there's another switch up here. And so this little cam here makes the magic happen. And so I'm going to show you what it does, and I'm going to show you the way that you can, the forgotten switch that people don't mess with that causes a lot of problems. So it's on 0 right now. So on this particular design, the bottom switch closes at 0. And it does that so that power can run all the way through all of these 8 bottom score reels to bypass the switch on Z2 that is open since it's pulled in, and the power running through that will advance the player unit to the next position. We went over that in the last video extensively. You see how this middle switch is open. That is the run out switch for when it resets. So basically when it's not on 0, that middle switch is closed. And that middle switch allows the Z1 and Z2 score reset relays to keep pulsing this, pap, 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 pap. But when it gets to 0, which is reset, that switch opens and breaks the connection. So it can't reset it past 0. That's how you want it, right? So during normal gameplay, the score reels on these particular games are just the relays, the solenoid on it is just wired to the 10-point relay, 100-point relay, 1,000-point relay, whatever, right? So we're on 0 right now. So watch what happens when we go to 1. See how this middle one isn't adjusted right? That should be closed at 1. And you could kind of tell because of the big gap on it, right? So we need to adjust that so it's closed. And then it's going to keep on going. And then let me show you what happens when it gets to 9. 5, 6, 7, 8. Watch, it's going to go way up. Or try to, right? Since I did it slow, it won't even do it. So it has to push. Remember, this one would have been even farther down. And it has to push way up to close the switch up here. So it has to move that so far. But you know what it really has to move far? This bottom one. So people will adjust this middle one and adjust the top one, and they'll oil the hell out of the thing, and they'll shorten the spring and all kinds of crap. But what really is going on is this bottom switch, not this one, the one that's in the unit. Look how far that is bent out of whack. But it has to do that to get up to touch this ninth position switch that isn't even on this one. So the problem is you need to bend that one farther up so that it doesn't have to bend it as far up. The way it is right now, it's causing all kinds of tension. Okay, so see it way down here? if it were up a little farther, that would be fine. This could push it down to 0. So bending it up will make that transition to 9 easier because it won't have to bend it as far up. It's already a little higher up. So we need to bend that switch slightly higher. And that may even fix our problem where at 1 we're gapped out, right? So I'm going to bend this bottom captive switch, the one that's in the armature. I'm going to bend it just a little bit higher. And we'll see if that helps our problem. All right, so all I did was adjust that a little bit. You might have saw this top one was all kind of bent up over here. I just bent it back straight. And see where I've got it? I've got where it comes out and it's pretty much straight. Right? But I bent this long one up higher. That's where the freaking issue is. It's completely counterintuitive. You would think, oh, you know, it has to push that 9 one all the way up. This one doesn't even have a 9 one, but it has to push this one all the way up. It's the bottom one. It has to pull it up. It causes all kinds of problems. So we are at 0. 1. See, now the middle ones are closed. Right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So when you need to fix that bottom switch is your problem. All right, so here's one of the ones with the 9 position switch at the top there. So I've already adjusted this one. We're at 0 now. And of course I took it all apart and cleaned it. We're at 0, so that bottom switch is closed. We go to 1 and now the middle switch is closed. And it will stay closed. The bottom switch is open. And the top switch is open, which is the 9 position switch. All right, so 6, 7, 8, 9. It went up and touched 9. See the middle still closed. Look how far it needs to travel to shut that bottom one. And it does. Middle one's open. Right? So the reason these don't turn right, a little bit of it's, you know, friction on the plate, a little bit of it's friction from dried up grease, but most of it is the tension on these blades. It has to be just right, and you can have it working just right, but this won't turn because of the tension that these provide on this. So if these are pushing this way down, that little bar in there is pushing up against the bottom of this wheel, and it's more friction and won't allow it to drag, to turn. Perfect. That's perfectly how it should be. All right, folks, it's been a horrible experience, but I got them all cleaned. Let's see if they reset. Sometimes if you're in the middle of a game, whenever you turn it on, it does its thing, but we'll see if it just goes straight to tilt. Yes, it did. Or keep game over, actually. Okay, so we're going to try to reset all of them. Now, there's also tons of other problems, light bulbs, stuff like that, but we should have the score reels done. Let's see. You're going to see something incredible if it works. Ooh, one hung a little bit. Boom. I don't know what that was at the end. I don't know. It keeps doing that. Sounds like it's that, doesn't it? Let's score something and then see if it does it every time. Yeah, it does it every time. Is that right? Let's see if it's actually physically moving every time. Yeah. That ain't right. But it did, they did all reset. We had that one that hung just a little bit. Might have to look at that a little more, but We've about got our score reels ready. So next up, let's see if I can figure out why the out hole is kicking 4 times like that. It shouldn't do that. Come on, people. All right, so on the schematics here, this is the ball return. Now, the clue is that it does it multiple times. Bap, 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 bap. It's doing it like 5 times. Well, that's because it somehow must be connected to the impulse of the cam. So there's lots of things that happen 5 times. Like if you score 50 points, the 10-point relay fires 5 times. If you score 500 points, the 100-point relay fires 5 times. If the score reels are resetting, they're pulsed 5 times. Right? So a switch like that must be involved here somewhere. So here is the ball return, and if you travel back, it runs through a switch on, I need to get out the paper ones, but is that OX? And then a switch on O, which is the out hole relay. So the ball has to be an out hole. And then a switch motor 4C. So whenever the score motor is turning, eventually it will close switch motor 4C. And the way that gets power is from this lead here. It continues down, and it is pulsed by motor 1A. So did you follow that? Basically, for that coil to fire, the power will never get to it unless switch 1A on the score motor and switch 4C on the score motor are both closed. So switch 4C, this is the motor sequence chart, which is basically like it shows you kind of the timing of everything. So as that score motor starts turning, it's closing all of these switches, and the black lines represent not necessarily when a switch closes, but also when a switch opens. So just anything that's stacked on, for instance, position 4C will open and close, depending on how it's wired, at that point. So this is the home position, the 0-degree position, and so the score motor starts turning. And then when it gets over here to about 100 degrees, that switch will close and stay closed till about 115 degrees. Right? Now they could also have one that was open, that was closed, and stays closed until it gets there, and then it would open at that area. So it's really when it changes its position, you know. And it just depends on what you're trying to do, how you would wire that. But the home position is back here. Okay, and as the score motor turns, there are 3 home positions, so it turns 1/3 of a revolution from home position to home position, and that's why it says 120 degrees. The second one would be technically 121, or would be technically 120, which is where the second home position is, to 240, and then the third one would be 240 to 360, which is 0 to 120. And so as it turns, it's just going 1/3 at a time, right? So Sherlock Holmes could say that if 4C has to be closed for the ball, for the kicker to kick, the out hole, the ball return coil, that's what it's called, the ball return coil to kick, if 4C has to be closed and 1A has to be closed, well, you see 1A closes 5 times. Now, why would they have it close 5 times if you only need it to close 1 time? It's because there's other things on this stack. There's not just one switch at 1A. There might be 4 or 5 switches at 1A, and it's just doing other things. So what they've done is, this is the same set of switches that works whenever the game resets. It's what is resetting the score reels and all that stuff. Now, if the reset relay, or the score reset relay, Z1 and Z2, if they're not pulled in, whenever these close on motor 1A, whenever that particular switch closes, nothing happens because that relay is not pulled in, and so it has cut the path to power. Similarly, on this one, that ball kicker will never kick if the ball is not in the out hole, because then the O relay will never come on. And so this keeps turning and these switches keep closing, but the power never gets all the way through. You know, it goes up and goes to one switch and it makes it through that one. And then it goes and it makes it through another one, but then, damn it, that O relay is not closed and it can't go through that. So they control it by turning on and off relays that are in the way of the power. It's like having doors closed or doors open, you know. So in this particular instance, this is a really interesting one because you can, the answer is apparent, right? The way it's wired up, 4C has to be closed. See where it is, and then 1A has to be closed. Ours is kicking 5 times. Why would that be? It must be because 4C is stuck closed. That must be closed the whole freaking time. And every time this closes, bam, 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 it's kicking the freaking ball out. So the problem almost has to be, for sure, 4C. So if we go find that switch, that ought to tell us. Now, how do we know on 4C, if there's 4 or 5 different switches, how do we know which one it is? You know by the wire colors. So this one is white, I think it's, yeah, white and black, and this one is orange and black. This one says white and black on another part of the schematics. So orange and black, white and black. So you look on motor position 4C, until you find the 2 blades of the switch that have an orange and black wire running to it and a white and black wire running to it. And that's that switch. All right, so see the number 4 there? That may be missing on yours. But this is the stack 4 on the score reel. Okay, so here we are. A is at the bottom. It's that one that's crooked. It's still on. A is here, B is here, and this is the C switch stack. And I said orange and black, it's orange and blue. So orange and blue is this outside switch. And then the next blade down has a little blue jumper on it. See it? And so that little blue jumper must be jumping somewhere. Yeah. So it's jumping to the white and black wire. Okay. So we have confirmed it's this outside switch. Now you saw how it was drawn in the schematic. That switch is supposed to be open and it's closed. But you can see why it's closed. See these little spacers here, these little nylon things? There's one missing there. So they have a stack of switches, and since that nylon piece is missing, it's not pushing open that second stack there with the nylon. So luckily I've got a bunch of those, so I'm going to go get one and see if I can get it in there where it's supposed to go and fix that problem. But as it's sitting right now, let me show you from the other side. You may be able to see it better. See how the little follower there on the cam is pushing the first switch down there closed? But the second switch should be open and the third switch should be open. Oh, don't electric kill me, people. What'd I do to show you the cool stuff? Oh, don't electric shock me. So it should be like that, because there's a little plastic spacer that should be in there. Get it? Got it? Good. New one installed. They sell those brand new. You can get them at the Pinball Resource. You can get them at Marco Specialties. Now, if you're working on one of these, you can see the importance of the schematics. How in the world would I have found that without the schematics? You have got to have the schematics. People, you've got to have the schematics. It's 20 bucks. It ain't that big of a deal. You can get them at the pinballresource.com, pbresource.com. They just help you fix everything. And without them, you know, what are you going to do? It helps you figure it out. It's like a big puzzle. It's part of the fun of it. That's another thing that people don't understand.
This is fun, people. You must think it's fun or you wouldn't be watching this deep into the video. This is the fun part. It's like a big puzzle. Have you ever done like a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku? You know, it's like a little mystery you're trying to figure out. That's not right. It shouldn't be doing that. Let me get the schematics and figure it out. That's the fun part of it. It's like a little challenge, right? So that should fix it. But let me lay the playfield down. I turned it off while I did that, and we'll restart it once again and see if it kicks the ball out 5 times or 1 time. Here we go. Beautiful. Wasn't that beautiful? Let's do it one more time. The other noise you heard, I think, was the drop targets resetting. Let's try it once more and watch the drop targets. Did you see them thump a little bit there? So it's going clink, and then it's going glunk. The glunk is both sets of drop targets resetting. Okay, so solve that problem. Let's find some more problems to solve. So I tried to test play it, and it was disastrous. The drop targets won't drop cleanly. They only drop like halfway, so we're going to have to rebuild the drop targets, which isn't a big deal. All right, folks, I think we about got it. I had to replace some light bulb sockets, adjust some switches, but nothing major. So let's see. Notice the drop targets reset crisply. All right, everything reset to 0. It says ball and play 1, player 1. Oh, you know what? We still got to... We got to fix the chimes. Flippers are pretty strong. Oh, get a good flip. Oh, yeah. That's how you want it. Beat up the banks. Missed it. I get a lot of people saying, oh, the flipper buzzes. That's a thing on EM pinball machines, people. They're AC powered. You can maybe get them quieter if you replace everything, and then they'll start doing it again, and then you can spend some more money and replace it again. Now on a more modern pinball machine, they don't typically do that as loud. Whoa. George. I think it's George. I hadn't seen George in a while. Thought he might have something to do with that. That was crazy. Yeah, the chimes sound like crap. But it's playing fairly smooth, really. Ooh, kissed. See, there's no 1,000-point chime. George, what are you doing? Let's see if this is better. Straight down the middle, ball 5. Oh yeah. That's how I like it. We made it more fun, folks. Whew. Want to get a good whack on this right one. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so basically,
we had a situation where the ball was getting caught in a slightly cupped insert. So what's going on is there's a little tiny divot on the bottom of that insert there. There's just a little tiny thing. Now, if you didn't see the earlier videos, we repainted like the whole playfield. And the thing was in pretty extremely bad condition. So there's just a little bit of a divot there in that. So if you hit the ball just right, it bangs around up there, and since it's heading this way really slow, it stops on the insert. Almost looked like a ghost was doing it on purpose, right? So the way you fix something like that is you increase the... Well, there's two ways to fix it. One, you can fix it by clear coating it. So take everything off the playfield, clear coat it, sand it down, clear coat it again, sand it down, clear coat it again, sand it down, clear coat it again, sand it down. And then in 2025, whenever, well, I can't talk about. In 2025, whenever horrible things are happening to the country, you may finally have it flat. Right? But, or you can just make it a little steeper where the ball rolls past it a little faster. That's the easy fix. But you can't do that if the flippers aren't strong enough. But these flippers are pretty strong. So there's still no problem getting the ball all the way to the top of the playfield. If you increase the pitch of the playfield too, in my opinion, it makes them play a little better because it makes the ball roll faster. But you can only do it if you've got strong flippers. And we've got strong flippers. So I'll keep playing it. But I did find something else that we need to figure out. One last thing. I need to paint a little bit on the back glass. But other than that, one last thing. Let me show you. Okay, so if I can get it to show you. So the problem is the first player and the second player lights are lit up. I haven't messed with any of that yet, replacing any of those light bulbs, but whatever that is going to be a problem like on something else, on the player unit or something. So we need to look in the schematics and see, if I'm playing a one-player game, why are the second player lights lit up? So you simply look in the schematics and see what lights up the second player lights. All right, so here are the second player score lights, and I have to admit, I've never really understood why this is, but if you see here, this is a switch on the player unit whenever you get to the second player's set of switches, and we've went over that player unit several times already, but whenever you get to the second player's stack of switches, it turns on the lights. But there's also a switch here on BX, which is the last ball relay, that I believe comes on whenever you get to the last ball. So if you're playing a third ball game, when the third ball starts, that relay comes on. But it looks to me like it comes on when the first player gets to the third ball. So I don't understand why they would turn on the second player's lights as well. But that's how I read it. I don't know. I may be wrong. But, you know, on the first player, it does the same thing. Now, the third player, the Q relay, and the fourth player, the Q relay, that's the game over relay. So I've never completely understood why that works like that. But whenever you get to the last ball, it turns on the first and the second player's lights, is how I read it. And when you get to player 3, if you were playing like a 4-player game, player 1 and player 2's lights would be on, and player 3's lights would be on. But then whenever you move to player 4, player 1's lights would be on, player 2's lights would be on because the last ball relay would be on. Player 3's lights would be off because you're not on player 3's reels and the game over relay hasn't been tripped. And then player 4 lights would be on. That makes zero sense, but I must just not understand it. Maybe the last ball relay doesn't come on until the end of the game. I don't know. But anyway, our problem is the second player lights are on all the time. So it's probably that switch. It's either the switch on the second stack of switches on the player unit, or it's this switch on the BX relay. One of those two is always on, and that's why those lights are always on. All right, folks, I have found our offending switch for making the second player lights stay on. So we're back to the player unit. Now, if you've been watching the whole time, you know this player unit's giving me all kinds of trouble. So we're on player 4 right now. Whoop, got my hand in the way. We're at the reset area. That's player 1. It makes the stack go up. You get to the next position, it's going to make player 2 go up. But if you look really close at the second set of switches, not the top 2, the bottom 2. So it's already closed, and now it's still closed. And now we're on to player 3, but the second player one is still closed. So we're talking about that switch right there. That should be up like that. So I'm going to bend it just slightly, and that should turn off our second player lights. And then, just for curiosity's sake, we're going to play, or just step through a 4-player game and see on the last ball how the lights work on the score displays, because that makes no sense to me about that last ball relay. Well, it's daytime, so you can't see too good, but it did reset, and it has fixed it where only the player 1 lights are on. So, let's play a little bit. Oh, I need to start more than a 1-player game. So that's resetting it, 1-player game. 2-player game. See the lights at the bottom? 4-player game. Okay, so we'll act like it kicked the ball out. All right, we'll let it play itself a little bit. So only the first player is lit up. So now we have moved over to the second player, and only it is lit up. Now we've moved to the third player, and only it is lit up. But that third player is pretty good. Okay, now we've moved to the 4th player, and only it is lit up. So that's ball 1. Back to the first player. Okay, so let's step through it. Ball 2, second player. Ball 2, third player. Okay, so we're on the 4th player, ball 4. Maybe if I turn the lights out, we can see it better. It's bright out. Fourth player, ball 4. Okay, so first player, ball 5. Second player, ball 5. That's how I would expect it to work. So the last ball relay must have not tripped yet. Third player, ball 5. Fourth player, ball 5. Yeah, so they it doesn't light up like it. So the last ball relay must not be pulled in. Let me check. Okay, so the last ball relay is this interlock relay right here, and it is not tripped yet. We are on player 4, ball 5. So it doesn't happen on player 1, ball 5. So let me hit the runway switch. That doesn't trip it. Let me score some points. That didn't trip it. Okay. And then let's land in the out hole. That tripped it. So the ball landing in the out hole tripped it, which turned on 2 sets of lights, and then the other 2 turned on with the game over relay. I wonder why they just didn't put all 4 on the game over relay. Must be a good reason. All right, folks, so this part's fairly complex. So the power connects through here. The I relay is the extra ball relay. So unless you've won an extra ball. So if you haven't won an extra ball, that's still connected. So power connects through here. The U relay is the first ball relay, and it's an interlock relay. So as soon as it trips, as soon as a ball has been played, that closes. And then you get to the coin unit. This is drawn as a one-player game on the first ball, as with the ball sitting in the out lane in reset position, basically. So if you've only got a one-player game, these are connected. And if you look, this says 2B, 3B, 4B. So that one's second player, third player, fourth player. So if I was to play a second player game, this would move and this would no longer be connected, but this one would still be connected and this would still be connected. Those are basically, they're shorting out the third player and the fourth player. That's how they get it to advance past the third player and the fourth player if there's only a two-player game going on. So power comes through here, and on a one-player game, power connects through here at position 8. There must be a position 0, which must be where we're starting. So, you know, ball 1, 0 through ball 1 is player 1. Player 1, ball 1 is position 0. Player 1, ball 2 is position 4. Player 1, ball 3 is position 8. So this is player 1, ball 3. So if you have this little jumper connected to 3, when you got to position 8, which would be ball 3, the power would connect through this, through here, and as soon as the out-hole relay closed, which is the ball falls in the out-hole, it would turn on the last ball relay. So it does it after the last ball. That's kind of interesting. And so let's say you play a two-player game. Well, that short moves down to here. So when you get to position 8, that's the first player's third ball. At the end of that ball, it's not connected because that has moved because you got a two-player game. But this one's still connected. So when you get to position 9, which is player 2, ball 3, at the end of that ball, as soon as the out-hole closes, it will turn on the last ball relay. And then if it's a on 5-ball setup, it waits till position 16, 17, 18, and 19. So it makes sense. I just don't understand why they did it like that. But it's working correctly. All right, folks. So here is the beautiful Backglass. I went and triple thicked it. See the shine? All the parts that were flaking are now sealed with triple thick. We've done that in a million videos. But I wanted to show just the condition this one's in before we touched it up. This is going to be an easy one because it's just the red, basically. So this is some kind of red cable that the astronaut's got going to his helmet or something. It's flaked. The Spirit of 76 part, the red stripes have faked. There's a little bit of flaking in the blue, but we're not really going to worry about that. The Game Over, also red. And then the 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all red. So there's not a ton that has to be done. But if we could get that looking better, it would make it look much better. Now that cable thing has faded to where it's almost orange. Or maybe it was orange. I'll look at a picture of another one just to make sure. I guess it probably was orange because the red's right there beside it and it's not faded. So orange. But we've got one, the 76 part definitely needs it. And the 1, 2, 3, and 4 definitely need it. That would make this glass look a lot better. So we're going to do that. There's also a little spot there we can hit at the same time. And the Game Over. So I'm going to try to find a color that's pretty close to that. And we'll go ahead and make it happen. Very cool. I'm going to look at a picture too just to make sure that that's red. It may be an orange. It looks a little light, but it could just be playing tricks on my eyes. Oh yeah, it's the same as the flag, which, you know, obviously would have been red. Okay, so I need to find a red that matches this other red here pretty well, and then we'll go with that. So I've got a whole bunch of different colors, but this red alert seemed the most similar to the red on this Backglass. This stuff's like $1. It used to be 69 cents, but inflation happened, and now it's $5.50, I think. Maybe not that much, but it's close. So I do this a little different than most people. The best way to do this would be to airbrush it. So if you're good with an airbrush, that would be good. I do it right here in the front room of my storefront. And, you know, I'm not hooking up an airbrush and using it in here. It's just, I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested in doing it the perfect way. So I'm just trying to help the guy out, make it look better. So the problem with red in particular, and any color on a backglass, is that light is literally shining through it. This part that's gray is a mask. Light won't shine through that. But all of this is illuminated. All of that, all 4 of those numbers, that, all this. All of that is translucent. Not transparent, translucent. So, and this part is opaque. So you're trying to match translucent areas with opaque areas anyway. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And then plus you have some of the original paint still on there. So for instance, I haven't done this orange thing yet. If I paint that in, like I've painted these in, you will see all of the areas with the original paint will be darker than the areas with the new paint, because they're one thicker coat of paint on that. So whenever that lights up, you're going to see every little area that has fresh paint on it. So you could try to just paint the area that's chipped off, but look at that. How the hell are you going to do that? And then you'd have to have a perfect match on the paint. You're chasing your tail. It's not worth even attempting, right? You could try to cut off the old paint. So you could take an X-Acto knife and very carefully make a score and take all the old paint off and get that perfectly clear and then paint it. But that's a lot of work, you know. That's a lot of work for a backglass that's kind of meh. It's not original. Has areas you've repainted. If you were to airbrush it, it would look much more smooth, but you would still see the areas that have an extra layer of paint, that have the original paint. Those areas would illuminate darker than the areas with the fresh paint. So the best way I've found to do this is the way I've done here. Now, another thing is red paint is notoriously thin paint. It doesn't have a ton of pigment in it. It's not really dark, right? So if I take a paintbrush and I was to paint one coat of paint on that, it's going to go on so thin that to get it to the level that it's printed on the glass or silkscreened on the glass, you're going to have to put like 8 coats on it. It takes forever. So that's not how I do it anymore. What I do is I glob that stuff on there. So it is on thick as crap. And it's kind of lumpy and kind of, there's globs of it. If you don't do it that way though, what happens is you got to put 8 coats and then you see all of the brush strokes anyways. It's just not worth the trouble. So what I've done is I've, as carefully as I could, painted the lines back. What do you think? That's fairly straight. Now you don't have to color within the lines on most of it. So that 4 there, for instance. Since the masking all around it is blocking everything, I mean, I could paint this whole area red and you wouldn't be able to tell. The only part you would be able to tell is where the 4 is, where it shows through. Where they left the masking off so that it would be translucent. Right? So you don't have to do that. This particular one, so these are, it's so thick that they may not even illuminate anymore. But you'll see the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 very nicely, and they'll be nice and red on the front. And look a heck of a lot better than it did. But they may not light up. On this particular game, it doesn't really matter because the entire score windows light up as we did earlier. Where it says game over, though, you need it to be a little thinner if you can help it. I still had to go pretty thick on it to cover all of the screwed up spots. But that needs to kind of illuminate so you can read game over. So you don't want the paint an inch thick, so I went with half an inch thick. So hopefully the light will still shine through it a little more than it will shine through this area, and you'll be able to read it. The 76 stripes there, I just as carefully as I could painted only the red parts, and I think it'll look decent. That was just a spot that was scraped. So I need to do this orange here. Now I've got to mix it just a little bit. I believe it's a combination of Canyon Orange and deep ochre. Somewhere in the middle of those two is about that color. So I'll do the best I can to match it, and then we'll see what it looks like on the other side. All right, so I took the deep ochre, I poured a little bit of it in the cap, a little too much of it in the cap, and put a little bit of the orange in it to orange it up a little bit. Painted the little strip thing, and then his suspenders or his leather whatevers were pretty bad, so I went ahead and did them too. So, two colors. Now, that's not every little piece that's messed up on it, but, you know, you got to know when to stop. Maybe I should have already stopped, right? So, the 1 looks pretty good. The 2 looks good. The 3 looks good, but if you get really close, see how it's splotchy? So that's how it's going to light up. It's not going to be perfect. And the 4. That looks much better. The 76, much better. I mean, much better. Here's the little cord thing, whatever it is. Pretty close match. And his suspenders look pretty good. So there's still problems all over the place. Like there's this, there's some red there too that's you're going to be able to see through. I saw like a piece of the white is messed up. So this is not going to look perfect, but it'll look more presentable. And when it's sitting there turned off, which is most of the time that people own a pinball machine, it's just sitting there turned off. At least they can read the spirit of 76. Good old red, white, and blue. Old school red, white, and blue too. So it'll look very presentable. The 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 look really good. It'll look nice in the back glass even when it's turned off. So I think the customer will appreciate that. Oh, and the best part about using this acrylic paint and putting the triple thick on it before we do it is if you don't like it, you can just wipe it right off. All right, folks, I'll show you that here in a second, how that all came out. It looks decent, looks pretty good, I think. But we're going to test play it a little bit. What do you think about that? I just saw something weird on the back glass. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So, I think we're about done with it. You know, they play a lot better with the glass on them. Try that sometime. Play one without the glass on it and then put the glass on it and see if you think it plays better. They really do. No joke. Whoa! Nice. You see that little backhand? I missed that one, but I got the other one. Oh no. There we go. You want to get that C because the only way you can get it is at the top. Whoop, missed it. Now, it'd probably be a little better if I bounced it a little bit. What do you call it? Nudged it. If I nudged it a little bit. But, the camera's in the way, folks. I can't nudge it with the camera in the way. I'm sacrificing for you folks. Give me my C. Oh, I missed it. Boy, she plays pretty good. I believe the customer will be very happy. Double bonus when lit. There's kind of a rhapsody to the chimes. All right, so y'all can spot the light that's out. We're going to play it one more time. Now, it knocked because, well, I don't know why it knocked. Maybe I got a high enough score. Yeah. Okay, so let's play it again. One more time. Come on, big money, big money. Nothing. There's 10 points. Still 10 points. I haven't made the saucer shot yet. There we go. See, it works. Ooh, I was playing with it too much. Well, I think we saved it. This is a very playable, very presentable game. Just needed a little attention, that's all. What a cool game. Oh, come on. I hit it 4 times and never got it off the flippers. All right, well, very cool. I see a light bulb out. But other than that, everything's working pretty good. And this is how the back glass turned out. Now, this is with all the lights on, obviously, and the light's out. So I don't know how overblown that will be on the camera there, but it looks pretty freaking good. This almost looks like it's supposed to be like that because the blue is faded. Remember, I cleared it all too, so it's not going to get any worse. But the blue is faded, and the red that I painted back in has a kind of similar look. It's not quite straight, but yeah, it kind of looks like it's how it's supposed to be. So one of the weird thing I was saying that I noticed on the back glass is, look how they've got it where half of the guy is covered up. I don't get that. There's nothing back there. They painted it like that. So I guess he's just supposed to be in a shadow. But that's how they did it. The guy's leather straps there turned out pretty good. And then maybe best of all is the 1, 2, 3, and 4 all came out pretty good. That's probably all blurred. It's probably all bleached out. But yeah, I think it looks great. Now on this particular one, it looks like that they did want the game over light to be the one that flashes. On a lot of games, behind where the title of the game is flashes. But it looks like the way this one was designed, just the way the bulb holders are, it looks like it was supposed to be the game over light. So I think we're pretty good. Nice little game, very fun, great theme, obviously. Very cool. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed working on it. I hope the customer enjoys it. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And make sure to check out my brother's channel. My brother Donnie has his own channel here on YouTube. I help him with that. I'm over there on his channel a lot. He was just by here a little bit earlier today. We work on arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes. My brother Donnie works on old vehicles, old buildings, things like that. And fun time is had by all over on his channel. So go check it out. So I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you on the next video here in a couple days. We'll start another series on another machine. So we'll see you then.